Okay, hello my friends. Thank you and welcome to my YouTube channel, La Pupusa se come con. This is the chapter number 2 from the book Bringing Down the House that we are reading. So let's start with this lesson. Boston, present day. $25,000 in hundreds, strapped to each thigh. Another 50,000 in a Velcro bag taped to my chest. 50,000 more stuffed into the pocket of my jacket. 100,000 nestled against the small of my back. I felt like a cross between the Michelin Man and a drug dealer. Bulging and nervous, I pushed through the revolving glass door and entered Logan Airport. Refrigerated air smacked me full in the face, and I paused, getting my bearings. Terminal B was bustling with college kids fleeing town for the long Memorial Day weekend. Backpacks, baggy jeans, baseball caps, duffel bags, everyone moving in every direction at once. The unchoreographed ballet of a modern American airport. I took a deep breath and joined the flow of people. I kept my eyes low, watching my scuffed dark loafers pad across the tile floor. Act casual, think casual, be casual. I tried not to think about the new BMW strapped to my back. I tried not to think about the down payment for a 2-bedroom condo nestled in my jack pockets. I concentrated on looking like everyone else. Maybe not a college kid, but perhaps a grad student, a teaching assistant, someone's older brother here to help with the luggage. Just part of the cacophony. A statistic in Logan's weekly FAA report. Act casual, think casual, be casual. Suddenly, the modern equivalent of Stonehenge loomed in front of me. 2 airport metal detectors standing side by side, flanked by a waist-height conveyor belts continuously feeding into boxy steel X-ray machines. My pulse racketed as I mentally checked myself. No bills hanging from my sleeves, no glimpses of green sticking out through the bottoms of my shirt. I stepped into line behind a pretty brunette in low-riding jeans, even offering to help her hoist an oversized sticker-covered suitcase onto one of conveyor belts. Act casual, think casual, be casual. Next, a tall African-American woman in a gray Logan uniform beckoned. There was a name tag on her right lapel, but I couldn't make out what it said because of the sweat stinging my eyes. I blinked rapidly, but casually, and stepped forward through the disembodied door frame. The invisible ray slides and diced my entrails in search of metal. Just as I started to breathe easier, a high-pitched mechanical scream tore through the dead air. I froze. The woman with the name tag pointing me back through the machine. Empty your pocket of any metal object and try again. My throat constricted. My hands jerked instinctively toward the bulge beneath my jacket. About the stacks of $100 bills, I felt something shaped like an enormous suppository. Shit. I had forgotten about my cell phone. My fingers shook as I reached into my coat and fumbled for my Nokia. I could feel the woman's eyes on me. If she asked me to take off my jacket, I was dead. She'd see the bullets and all hell would break loose. I spent the past 6 months researching stories involving attempts at sneaking undercurrent fortunes through airport security checkpoints, and I knew all about customs law. The security agents can detain you for 48 hours. They drag you to a windowless room, sometimes handcuff you to a chair. They call in agents from the DEA and the FBI. They confiscate your steak, sometimes without even giving you a receipt. It would take lawyers and letters and appearances in court to get the money back. Maybe 6 months, maybe a year. Meanwhile, the IRS will descend on you like great soot locust. It will be up to you to prove you weren't planning to trade the cash for little bags of fine white powder. Because the customs agents, money smells like cocaine, especially $100 bills. I read that 95% of the $100 bills in circulation have many traces of cocaine embedded in their fibers. That means those specially trained custom dogs can sniff out a professional blackjack player faster than they can spot a drug courier. To the dogs and the custom agents, they both smell the same. Fear sucked my back as I handed the woman my cell phone. She looked at it. She looked at it like she'd never seen one before. She turned it on, turned it over, then handed it back. Behind me, a kid in a tie-dye sweatshirt tried to shove a potted plant onto the conveyor belt. The woman with the name tag rolled her eyes. Then, thankfully, she waved me past. You're okay. Have a nice flight. I was barely breathing as I stumbled toward my gate, America West Flight 69. Boston to Vegas direct to the Friday Night Neon Express. A line of people had already formed by the check-in desk. Boisterous, drunk, mostly male, palpably eager. Kevin Lewis was waiting quietly near the back of the line. I spotted him immediately. Tall, athletically built, but with a slight side stood to his shoulders. Dark hair, dark eyes, a wide, boyish face beneath a mop of dark hair. Vaguely ethnic, but beyond that, indeterminate. His roots could have been Asian, Latino, even Italian or Russian, like me. He was older than most of the college kids, born in the fly, but he easily fit in with the crowd. He could have been 21, 26, or 35, wearing a jeans jacket and a baseball cap. He could have passed for a BU frat boy in a suit and tie. He would have blended in on Wall Street. At the moment, he was wearing an MIT sweatshirt and baggy shirt, the classic MIT stereotype right out of his parents' dreams. He saw my flushed cheeks and smiled. That's what it felt like every day. The bravado seemed incongruous with the shyness in his shoulders in many ways. Kevin was the classic MIT stereotype. His resume was perfect. A math science whiz kid who'd graduate at the top of his class from Exeter, the exclusive New Hampshire boarding school, an electrical engineering major with an incredible affinity for numbers, a straight-A student who'd cover all the prerequisites, partially to appease his father, partially because the challenge excited him. But Kevin's resume didn't tell the whole story. There was another side to his life, one written in neon signs and purple casino chips. In Boston, he'd earned straight A at MIT. In Vegas, he'd partied with Michael Jordan, Howard Stern, Dennis Rodman, and Kevin Costner. He dated a cheerleader from the LA Rams and gotten drunk with Playboy centerfolds. He'd been chased off a riverboat in Louisiana and watched a teammate kicked out of Las Vegas casino. He'd narrowly escaped being thrown into Bahamian jail. He'd been outdid by the IRS, tailed by private investigators, had his picture faxed around the globe by men with shadowy reputations and guns holsters to their waist. Along the way, he'd amassed a small fortune which he kept in neat stacks of Benjamins in a closet by his bed, although nobody was quite sure how much money he had made. It was rumored to be somewhere between $1 and $5 million, all of it illegal. None of it spawned from his perfect stereotypical resume. Shy, geeky, amiable Kevin Lewis had led a double life for nearly 4 years. Now I was going to tell his story. The burger starring to it was all I could think to say as I shook Kevin's hands. There's got to be an easier way to carry your steak. He grinned, his head cocked to one side. Sure, fake umbrellas, funny laptop computers, plaster casts, and hollow crutches. We went through a gadget phase, James Bond kind of stuff. But hollow crutches are a lot harder to explain to the FBI than Velcro. If there hadn't been $250,000 tied to my body, I had thought he was joking, but Kevin was dead serious. He was keeping his part of our bargain, disclosing the secrets no one on the upside had ever heard before. I met Kevin Lewis nearly 7 years earlier in a local Boston bar. I had graduated from Harvard a few years before he left MIT, and we shared a few mutual friends as well as a few minor interests: sports, late nights at college pubs, widescreen TVs. I was fledgling writer at the time of our introduction, just about to publish my first novel. As far as I knew, Kevin was employed by some sort of computer software firm, something he had never explained in detail, probably because I had never been interested enough to ask. Kevin seemed too much the typical MIT grad, a true engineer at heart. As my writing career began to take off in the years that followed our first meeting, we rarely crossed paths. It was almost 6 years later that we ran into each other at the Super Bowl I party in an apartment located a few blocks from Fenway Park. Kevin had just flown in front of a business trip to Las Vegas. During the game's halftime show, I found myself alone with him in the kitchen. After a quick exchange of pleasantries, he surprised me by lowering his voice and beckoning me in close. I got a great story for your next book, he began. I immediately thought about edging toward the exit. Like every other writer, I had heard this opening 1,000 times in my career. Everyone had a story he believed worthy of a bestseller. For me, reality was really interesting enough to take the place of fiction. But as Kevin began to open up to me, I felt the hair rising on the back of my neck. Unlike the thousands of other cocktail party stories I had heard, Kevin's tale had all the elements of a high concept cinematic thriller, but it was real. Everything Kevin was relating to me had actually happened. He had lived every minute of it, and he was willing to let me get it all down on paper. Why? I had asked, amazed. Kevin never answered my question directly. Over time, I tried to piece together an answer of my own. Kevin had been part of something incredible. He and his friends got away with one of the biggest schemes in Vegas history, and nobody knew a damn thing about it. Telling the story was his way of reliving the experience in a public forum. It was a way for him to prove to himself and to everyone and to anyone who cared that it had actually happened. More than that, it was a way for Kevin to come to terms with the choices he had made, the decisions that he led him to his double life, to his double life, to his double life. Many of those choices might have seemed immoral to the outside world. By telling his story, Kevin could explain himself to those who believed that what he did was somehow wrong. In other words, his story was part boast, part confession. For me, this was too good a story to pass up. As the Super Bowl played on in the other room, Kevin made me an offer. He promised to tell me everything, to give me access to his contacts and his lifestyle. He promised to teach me his system and show me the key that could unlock the casino's coffers. In return, I would give him his moment. The deeper I delved into Kevin's double life, the more I realized how far I had come out ahead in our bargain. When I finally sat down to put the words onto paper, Kevin's story flashed by my eyes. A technicolor as bright as a Vegas marquee.